Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Buzz Sports Show. Coming up, Mayo and Castlebar Mitchell star Barry Moran joins Mark McCadden to discuss the AIB Club Championships and why he's called Big Bird. Plus, Wexford hurling hero Lee Chin and Stephen McGuinness of the PFAI on the issue of racism in sport. And Barry Moran tackles the 61-second quiz. I'm David Coughlan and this is the Buzz Sports Show.
Captain of Fornia sin passing bag gloat isteach agus tuis na wari gear the kinsa groho and Shala Barry Moran agus in K-There can clip her score agus tá sé fáte ag a bhar mór lá park at Barry Moran agus should score all in go push on the wari.
It's Lee Chin. Little step to take him on the outside. Has a look and pops it over. Great score from Lee Chin.
Like dolphins can swim.
Miraculous catch by Lee Chin. Good ball inside as well too, Harry Kehoe. This is good, that's a wonderful puck there. Back to Lee Chin again, trying to put in the correct pass. Chance now for O'Connor, and it's over the bar. And Wexford have scored 5 points in a row. Jack O'Connor with the latest one.
Okay, next on the line we've got Lee Chin, Wexford star. Lee, I suppose the Cyrus Christie comments that came out at the weekend of the vile racist abuse he suffered and his own reaction to it, it must have brought back some bad memories for you.
Yeah, of course. I just I briefly read a bit about it on Twitter and stuff over the last number of days, and you know, obviously it did bring back up some memories of what I experienced, I suppose, in the past as well. But yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's just you know, I can't help but feel sorry for him, but it's just unfortunate and pretty disturbing at the moment for him, I'd imagine.
You spoke about this first on the Late Late Show at length with Jason Sherlock back in 2012, I think it was. I suppose you would have hoped that by now we would have moved on from a lot of this.
I think back in when I went through it and myself and Jason on the show back in 2012, I never really imagined that it would totally filter out after that we would completely be rid of all that kind of abuse. But look, I wasn't that naive to think that it was we were going to be the I suppose we were going to solve the problem or anything. But look, it's always going to be part of our world. But it's just unfortunate that it's happened on such a big international level. You know, and the fact that it's highlighted now again, it's just really, really unfortunate, and it's disrespectful, and it's in a national jersey with a guy that's playing for Ireland, and look, you don't expect it from any fans, but to get it from your own is just pretty wrong.
And the timing as well. I mean, he's just come off the pitch after, you know yourself, the adrenaline's running through you, the disappointment, the heartache, and then you see this. I mean, that can only, I can imagine, compound what he's feeling. Yeah,
look, it definitely wouldn't have helped. I was at the game myself, you know, at the field of 5-1, and you know, with their chances pretty much diminished of going through to the World Cup was, you know, obviously disappointing in itself, and then to experience that as well. And I'm not going to speak for him, but I can't imagine that it's probably his first time going through this. But maybe the fact that he's highlighting now could be the first time he's gone through it on this level. You know, you think there'd be a lot of respect there for a guy that puts on the Irish jersey and goes out and represents his country, especially from the Irish fans. And look, it's just pretty disturbing, and it's unfortunate for him.
Was social media as big a problem back in 2012 when you spoke about it first as it is now?
Yeah, I'd imagine it was. I think so. Anyhow, you know, there was, you know, a lot of stuff was I suppose highlighted in terms of on social media, and you know, you can get your point across on social media as well. Maybe the last number of years has really taken off to a higher level. I think, but still, I think it had a massive pull as well back a couple of years ago.
When you encountered racism on the field, how did you deal with it, and how did your teammates deal with it?
I think, to be honest, I just dealt with it in my own way. It wasn't anything that I kind of brought upon my teammates, you know. It wasn't a case of, if it happened in the first half, I'd mentioned it at half time or anything. It wasn't anything like that. I just dealt with it in my own way on the field. Sometimes it frustrated me. Sometimes, depending on which way the game was going for yourself and depending on which way the game was going for the team is nearly determined what way you reacted towards the comments. But even afterwards, you mentioned maybe one or two things afterwards to maybe your close friends within the team and, to try and console you in some way. But look, it was just the way you dealt with it, I suppose, in your own terms. And look, there were a lot of times it happened to me where I just kind of dealt with it myself, and there was just one incident then where I suppose it made a big noise, I suppose, and it got into the national media and stuff like that, and that's where I ended up speaking up about it.
When you went to Canada to the ice hockey over there, what was their what way did they deal with that kind of stuff?
I'm not 100% sure. I never really got into speaking about that when I was over there. But look at Canada itself is a multicultural country, just as I suppose we are at the moment, probably not to the same extent as the likes of Canada. And there's a huge Asian population over there, and I think the culture that's over there at the moment, everybody's accepted, and I'm not sure. Look, I'd imagine that there is some sort of racial instance that might happen over there now and again, but it's nothing that I dived into when I was over there.
You did suffer racism all through your life, did you? Like even in school, and even now, is it still happening now? Are you still taking the field and hearing the odd jibe?
No, not so much. Yeah, I dealt with it for most of my life, school, just growing up in general, in sport. To be honest, over the last number of years, since 2012, a lot of this stuff is pretty much filtered out. I can't recall an incident that I experienced on the field since 2012 that I've got racial abuse on the field. In other aspects of life, yes, I've continued to be the victim of it, but they're just things that you just got to deal with in your own way.
Would your family would there be comments made to your family members and stuff like that?
Well, I have a younger sister at the moment. She's 9 years old, and look at her. Obviously, she'd come home sometimes from school, and she'd mention there's been one or two comments made towards her or stuff like that. But look, at kids are kids. They don't probably understand what it means, and look, you kind of, not that you make exceptions for her, but you just try to make her feel better about herself and try to make her feel special, and that the fact that she's different doesn't mean that it's wrong. They're the kind of the comfort you try to give her. That's
quite shocking, though, in this day and age, that a 9-year-old girl is getting subjected to that kind of thing. I know, as you say, kids are kids, but even still.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think it's in some way as well. I think the kids that are growing up also, I know they might be sometimes, look, like I mentioned, that they don't realise what they say at times and the effect that it might have until they get to an earlier age and a bit more maturity. But look, I think schools are really pushing a big effort on, everybody accepting everybody, colour, race, no matter what mixed background they have. And I even noticed it from some of the books that my little sister bring home from school and stuff that she has for homework, that any book that she opens, a lot of the characters within these books would be of, that symbol a different race or a different colour on each page you turn. And I think for kids to be looking at that kind of stuff, it does make them more accepting to, they don't look at an Asian person or a black person and see different. They just see another person there, and I think that's a good place to start.
You mentioned other aspects of your life that you might still experience bits and pieces. Can you elaborate on that?
Look, to be honest, I don't want to get too much in depth with it, but look, it's just in your own personal life. You'd often you get it just through, maybe being out on a social night out with your mates, and you could come across a group of people with a few beers on board, and it could be mentioned in an environment like that, or once or twice it happened to me over the past few years, being at a sporting event, not involved in the sporting event, but just maybe on a sideline or something like that. I remember one incident that happened here at home, and pretty frustrating when it happens in that regard. But look, again, I don't want to elaborate and get too much into detail, but these are just the kind of things that I have experienced over the last number of years.
Cyrus Christie was brought to tears by the whole situation. I mean, it must be emotional for when this kind of stuff happens. Is it something that has happened to you?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's been something that has brought me to tears. No, again, look, I don't judge anyone. It's just some people deal with it in their own way. I know my other sister, my oldest sister, she's 23 now, in a few months, and I know that it upsets her an awful lot of times, and it's brought her to tears over the years when it happens. I don't know what it is. It's just, look, it affects some people differently, and look, I can imagine that with some people, like Christie, I think, for somebody like him, that he would have probably experienced this maybe throughout a lot of his soccer career, maybe, and being on an international level, you just think it's probably all done and over with now. I'm playing for my country, and I'm accepted as who I am and for what I am, and then to just get it from your own fans, I'd imagine that it's just very demoralising. And in my own opinion, when I hear it myself, sometimes I let it affect me so much that the reason I think I let it affect me so much, even though you have so much experience of it, I've sometimes been able to let it go, and sometimes it affects you more than other times. And I have this thing now where I feel that when I hear it targeted at me, it's almost like the people that do it are trying to make you feel insecure about who you are and what you are. And that's nothing I can change, and it's something that I wouldn't change if I had the option. And I think these people that do it, they just try to make you feel insecure about who and what you are, and I just don't think that's just not right in this day and age. It's just not right.
Is it important to speak out? I mean, you said after 2012, incidents on the pitch certainly weren't as frequent. Cyrus Christie has spoken out, and I noticed some of the Twitter accounts have been deleted. Is it important to speak out and basically shame people into silence?
Well, I think it's definitely important to speak out. I think he's done the right thing, because it's, I'd still have the odd occasion where I could be in a public place, and some guy of a mixed race background could approach me and just he'd just shake my hand and thank me for what I done of speaking out before, and to mention also that the follow what I do, and the fact that they play sport too, that they have experienced this also. And I don't know what it does, but there's something common that because to see it happening to me, and the fact that I can just fight through it and continue pursuing my dreams, that it inspires them. And that means a lot too, to hear that, because the fact that you spoke out about it, it meant that it touched somebody else, and that they know that they can get through it also.
Good stuff. Lee, before we let you go, we just have a tiny bit of hurling talk. Pat Gilroy was speaking at the weekend over in Boston about the demise of dual stars, and how little the GAA are doing to make it possible for players to be dual stars. I'm sure obviously there's a lot of the Dublin footballers that he'd like in his panel. What's your view on that? And obviously the fixture calendar is drastically changing next year. Do you think there could be a bit more done to get players to play both codes?
I'd say yes and no. Like, there obviously could. To be honest, in my honest opinion, I just don't think it can be done. I've experienced it myself, and I experienced it in a format where we now say it's the old format of the GAA of the fixtures and stuff like that. But I just don't think it's possible anymore for the standard of what the likes of, say, Dublin have set the bar over the last number of years in terms of football, and over the last 10 years, Kilkenny have set the bar of a hurling standard, and I just think to be getting into a squad, and trying to put your name down on a team sheet and being on a starting 15 every day, which every player wants. I just don't think doing both is achievable to achieve that. So, in my opinion, I just don't think. Look, I don't understand with Pat Gilroy. There's probably a lot of lads over the football side of things that he'd like to have on the hurling side with him at the moment. But
I'm sure you'd be happy as a Wexford man to see Con O'Callaghan stay with the footballers.
Of course, you would. Yeah. But look, he's been serious all through the summer with Dublin playing football, and with his club he's been fantastic as well. The man is a pure athlete, and he obviously he's a huge talent in both codes. But look, for him to do both, you'd probably see the quality in either. In both of hurling and football, you'd almost see the quality in each of them and dip a small bit if he was to only give 50% of his time to each code. And that's just my argument on it. It's not an argument, I suppose it's just my opinion on it, that I knew that was the case for me, where I knew I definitely wasn't going to get the most out of myself and have the biggest contribution on a championship day with Wexford hurling or football when I was doing both.
And lastly, I don't know, did you catch any of the AIG Fenway Classic over there in Boston at the weekend, the Super 11s?
Yeah.
There was a few different rule changes that were brought in. TMO, there was the tap and go free. One thing that really caught a lot of people's eye was the short corners, especially in the last 5 minutes of I think it was the Clare Tipperary semi-final. Very exciting, a lot of action at the goalkeeper. Would you like to see that come in, or have you got any view on it?
Yeah, well, definitely. Look, I experienced it back in 2013, I think, where we went to Boston, to Chicago to showcase the Super 11s, and it was a great trip, and it was a great game to experience. Also played it in Croke Park. I love the game. It's quick, it's fast, it's physical. You get a lot of possessions, and you get a lot of shots at the goal, and that's what hurling's all about, is just that pace, and everybody loves to see goal opportunities, and I suppose in this game it gives that in abundance, and especially with a couple of rule changes as well. I suppose a lot of Irish people probably would have found it hard to follow for the first 10 or 15 minutes, but eventually they caught on, I'd imagine. And yeah, the 65 rule was it's very interesting, because it's a different element, and it's that first touch and strike at the goal, and yeah, it was epic enough to see that happening. But yeah, I thought it was a good showcase. I followed a whole lot of it on TG Cahir, and yeah, it was great. I thought it was a great exhibition of our game.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, listen, Lee, thanks a million for talking to us today.
No problem.
On the line now, we have Stephen McGuinness. Stephen, we were just talking to Lee Chin, and obviously someone who's been on the receiving end of racist abuse on the field and off the field. Now, it was at your organisation's banquet, the PFAI Ireland Awards last Saturday night, that James McLean revealed that a player, he didn't name Christie at the time, but was the victim of some beyond football comments, and he basically outlined what they were. Were you surprised as everyone else in the room?
I suppose I was surprised by the racist element of it. I think after any result, especially of the result that was there the other night, and the disappointment by fans, I think players accept that their performance would be questioned based on the result. But to go beyond that and to go into racist slurs, I think is very disappointing. And I think obviously James felt that from his own point of view that he wasn't willing to stand for that, and that's why he obviously came out publicly and spoke about it.
Are you happy that he did, that it's brought a focus on what was written, I suppose, to Cyrus, and ultimately it's Cyrus himself's revealed that it hasn't been an isolated incident?
Yeah, I think it's a brave thing to do. I think sometimes things like this at times can be swept under the carpet, but I think it's important to address them and address them in the correct manner. And I think, Mark, it's always bubbling. Racism is there, whether we like it or not. I think it's always bubbling under the surface. especially around sport, especially in football grounds, I think, and now in particular on social media, where people can hide behind fake pages and our sort of keyboard warriors. I think that's where obviously we've got big issues, but I think it's always bubbling under the surface, and I think it's always something that we have to be aware of and something that we've always got to be prepared to challenge.
Players coming to you, Stephen, David Coughlan here, Stephen, did players coming to you over the years, in recent times?
To be honest, David, it's probably not, maybe not as big an issue as it was before, but as I said already, it's always there. It's been a while since we've had to deal with an issue of the one that Cyrus had to deal with, but it is always there. I think people only have to attend maybe some games in the League of Ireland where maybe Ismail Akinade or other players are playing, that it's still brewing there and it's still bubbling. And it's always a concern that I suppose it's incumbent on us as a union and on the federation as well to ensure that we're educating people and that we're proactive in relation to our approach. We have two ambassadors that work with show racing, the Red Card, with Gareth Mullen, who's doing sterling work with very little financial backing to continue the show races and the Red Card campaign. I know there's other campaigns out there as well, but I think it's something that we have to look at. I think it's something that maybe visually the international team probably need to do now, is to make a stand as a team on this thing, and to ensure that supporters are aware that it's not acceptable in any way, shape or form.
How do you deal with a player coming to you and basically saying that he's been the victim of racial abuse? Because it has happened on occasion when, you know, you've had one player accusing another player. How sensitive an issue is it for you, and how do you deal with it? Yeah,
it is a very sensitive issue, but it's zero tolerance, to be honest. I mean, it can't. From our own point of view, we've had players in the past who have racially abused other players. We've had one player racially abuse another on the pitch and has got suspended on the back of that and had done community service. It's the education of the market. I think it's key to it. I'd like to think that within the playing fraternity that there's a respect between everybody, but people being educated around the effects of racism and the effects of what you're saying. I think people at times don't understand the effects of what these slurs, what they actually mean and the connotations of them, and then the effects of it on the individual that they're saying it to. And I think people need to be educated around that, and that's something from our own point of view that we're very aware of. I think it's something that at times maybe we could be a little bit more proactive on it, and it's something that we have to look at as a union ourselves. We were heavily involved with show racing the Red Card for a number of years. We had a DVD that went into the skills. There was a piece done around the Stoya Bucharest game a number of years ago with Shelburne, which was a key part to the DVD that went around the skills. But I think a little bit, Mark, we can maybe a tiny little bit complacent on this thing, and as I said earlier on, I think it's always bubbling, and I think it's important that when something like this comes up, that we ensure that it's stamped out immediately and not tolerated in any way, shape or form.
The fact that the League of Ireland is probably has the most diverse amount of nationalities in the league ever, would that be fair to say at the moment, that you have to be even more vigilant?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to have them different cultures coming together. I think players from other countries add a lot to our league, and I think it's important that when they come into the league that they feel like they're part of it and that they feel welcome. And I think supporters, the majority, if not 99% of supporters, want to see foreign players coming into the league because it adds spice to it. It adds a different flavour to it. It adds different skill sets. You look at the contribution that Joseph and Doe made to the league, it's incredible. And I think we have to ensure that everybody is welcome into our grounds. We know ourselves we need to get more supporters, and we need to ensure that when supporters come into the ground, they have a positive experience, and to ensure that things like what happened, and again, I know it was only sent on social media, but if that's tolerated, it just seeps back into society, and I think it's incumbent on us all to ensure that doesn't happen.
You talk about what you guys can do as an organisation when it comes to educating players, but when it comes to social media and anonymous accounts and so on, what can you do? Is it more just what you advise the players to do? Is that all you can do?
Yeah, I think when you see, I mean, there's obviously a guard investigation into this, and investigations are one thing and all this, and whatever comes out of that comes out of that. I think there's nothing more powerful than what James McLean done. I think players and their profile, and obviously the sport that we're in, football, goes across every part of the country. I think it goes across male, men, women, it goes across, and I think there's nothing more powerful than players standing up and saying that it's not that's not acceptable. And I think that feeds into younger people, and I think there's a general understanding then that this isn't acceptable. And I think the players are massive role models, Mark, and maybe aren't used enough, especially in this arena, to ensure that message gets across. And I think we have to look at ourselves, our union, to ensure that our professional players are out there sending a message out that it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to treat people in a different way because of the colour of skin, or because of their religion, or because whatever difference they bring. It's not acceptable. I think James made a really strong stand on it, and I think other players have followed in behind him. And I think whatever about the Guard investigation, whatever rolls out with that, I think nothing is more powerful than the role models themselves coming out and speaking about it and saying it's not acceptable.
Listen, Stephen, that's super. We really appreciate your time. Thanks a million for taking the call.
No problem. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Dave.
All the best. Coming up after the break, Mayo star Barry Moran joins Mark McCadden to discuss the AIB Club Championships as Castlebar Mitchells take on Corofin in the Connacht Senior Football Final. And we find out why Barry Moran is called Big Bird.
So on the line we have Castlebar Mitchells and Mayo footballer Barry Moran. Welcome to the Buzz Sports Show, Barry.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Yeah.
No worries. Cheers for joining us. And we're here to chat about the AIB GAA Club Championship. Your club, Castlebar Mitchells, will face Corofin in the Connacht Decider this Sunday at 2 o'clock. Now, you'll also face on the Buzz Sports Show what all our previous guests will consider a challenge that puts Sunday's final into the shade. The dreaded 61-second quiz, a test of your knowledge of yourself and things that are ever so loosely connected with yourself. But
okay,
we'll ease you into it. We'll start off with the AIB Club Championships and maybe talk about the fact that there's a bit of history between these two clubs, isn't there?
Yeah, I suppose the last 4 years, I think Corofin have won 2 Connachts and we've won 2 as well. We've played each other 3 times over the last 4 years. We were lucky enough to beat them twice in Tuam, and then they came into Castlebar and to McHale Park and beat us last year. So I think the whole thing with home field advantage doesn't really pan out that well for ourselves in Corofin. But yeah, we have a lot of history, as you said. Yeah, and
like you alluded to there, 5 out of the last 6 finals, I think, have involved either one or both of these two sides, and 3 out of the last 4 All-Ireland finals the same. So we're really talking about the top of club talent here right now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think within Connacht, there's a couple of great teams coming through, but ourselves and Corofin have been there for the last few years. I suppose, as you mentioned there, Corofin have been well-deserved All-Ireland champions there a few years ago, and I think that's what we're striving to try to do. But, we know we have a huge test against them on Sunday.
Yeah, so where do you see Sunday's game being won and lost?
I think, I suppose, club football at this time of year is completely different to the summer football. I think it's a lot more physical. It can be a lot more tactical and maybe slower as well. I think the middle third, I know it's the old cliche, but I definitely think the last couple of times that we played them, the games where we won enough in the middle third, we ended up winning games. So I think from us, that's going to be crucial. But also they have a couple of great forwards inside as well. Corofin traditionally move the ball quickly, like to get the ball into the full forward line as quick as possible, and they have sharp shooters inside. So I think our matchups are going to be crucial on Sunday if we're going to be lucky enough to win. I think they're the 2 main areas that we'll be concentrating on.
So would you try and slow the game down a wee bit then to counter their quick play?
No, I wouldn't say slow it down. I think we try to play at the same pace as they do as well. I think when you get the ball, it's just, the number one rule is to try to get it inside as quick as possible. I don't think it's going to be a cynical game. We've played each other 3 times over the last 4 years. It's been very, very physical, but I think it's 2 footballing teams going at it, and I think it should be a cracker on Sunday.
Yeah, you say it won't be a cynical game. When you have such a strong rivalry, often it can, there can be a real edge to it, or a real edge can develop. Do you see a real edge developing between these two sides?
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a rivalry, as you said, being built up over the last few years, just from the fact that we've played each other so often. But I know from previous times, both teams will give it absolutely everything on the field, and then afterwards, shake hands and the respect for both of them, for both teams, and whoever the winner is. I don't think there's anything cynical. I don't think there's anything malicious or anything like that. I think it's just 2 teams and a bunch of players that really, really want to win as much as they can and that give absolutely everything on the field to do it. And I think that's what makes our games good as well. I'm sure for a neutral, if you're in November and you're at nothing and you see 2 teams going at it, giving absolutely everything they have to try to win a Connacht title or any provincial title for that matter, it's a good day.
So no mind games in the build up to Sunday?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just literally, they'll do the analysis on us and we'll do analysis on them. I think the great thing about both teams is, you just don't know what you're going to be faced with. I think both teams can kind of change it up slightly, whether they want to go all out defensive or attack, or move position lads into different positions and stuff like that. I think that's what adds to it. But from the point of view of being, cynical and slowing it down or that, I don't think it will be an issue on Sunday.
In terms of analysis and so on, describe the week up to an AIB Club final, the intensity and the amount of preparation that you can put into it.
Yeah, I think it's, we played Tour of Strand, I think, last Sunday, so we had a 2-week gap between games, so it allowed us a small bit more time to kind of concentrate on Cardiff. I suppose the typical thing really is that, you'd look at the previous games and try to see, can you see any patterns or anything like that. Also, you'd kind of try to identify a couple of their key players and where they're strong. You look at yourselves as well as the most important thing. So what we would normally do is earlier on in the week or earlier on before the games, we'd look at the opposition, kind of set out 2 or 3 kind of generalised things that we want to work on or we think need to be worked on. And then after a certain time, we just concentrate on ourselves, because I think with most teams, if you look at the opposition too much and you forget about yourselves, then you've lost the game before you go in already. So we're kind of a team that, give every team the respect they deserve, and really look at them and analyse them. But we also, know that if ourselves aren't up to it, then we're wasting our time.
It sounds like a lot of hours go into it, both on the training field and off the training field.
Yeah, I think so, but I think it's the same for all clubs at this stage of the championship. All the analysis has to be done. Video analysis, working on the pitch, the training. Any set moves you might be coming up with, all that needs to be done. It's no different to any other team. As you said, there are a lot of hours put into it. But I think, it's well worth it. I think most players would like to come off the field and say that they'd no regrets from a preparation point of view. And I think that's what all teams and players want to do at this stage of the year.
In terms of being worth it, 2 All-Ireland defeats at club level and obviously the inter-county drought as well. Describe, please, the hunger to claim the ultimate prize on St. Patrick's Day next year at Castlebar.
Yeah, I think the hunger is huge. If the game came down to hunger, I don't think Castlebar or Mayo, for that matter, would lose. But it doesn't. It comes down to something a bit more than that. A lot of those All-Irelands, the 2 club ones you talked about there, we were well beaten. We had good games up to that. We won a Connacht, won the semi-finals, but we weren't good enough on the day, and we were well beaten. And the Dublin champions, both of them, St. Vincent's and Ballyboden, on their day were more than worthy the winners. But I think, when you strive for that goal, it's the one thing that keeps you going. I think this majority of the club footballers around the country at the minute would love to be in our shoes or in Cardiff's shoes or any other club that's still involved, that you're still here in November pushing on, hoping to win an All-Ireland. And that's why you play football. You do it because you enjoy it, and you do it because ultimately you want to win the big prize. And, we'll be looking at Cardiff, and we know if we're lucky enough ever to beat Cardiff on Sunday, that, you'll look beyond that again. And it's the one thing that keeps you going.
I know Sundays is obviously the game that you're focusing on and so on, but in terms of bridging that gap between just getting so close to All-Ireland glory and actually achieving it, are you confident that the experiences in recent years can stand to you and can push you that for a step further?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the club's case here in Castlebar, I think we won our first county title was it 5 years ago, and we hadn't won one in 20 years previous to that. But we lost 3 county finals in a row prior to winning our first one, and we learned from those defeats. And since then, we've gone on to win 4 in 5 years and 3 in a row. It's the first time it's been done in 60 years. So, with every defeat, it's hard to take at the time. But if you can take 1 or 2 small things from it and learn from it and improve from it, you'll come back a better player and a better team as well. And that's definitely what we're trying to do in Castlebar Mitchells. We're not dwelling on the defeats that we had, but we're not forgetting them either. And we're certainly looking to improve and pick out our weaknesses and try to be a better team from it.
Excellent. Just a bit of background on yourself. The nickname Big Bird, what's the origin of that?
Big Bird, that came about a couple of years ago when I first started playing for Mayo. So it was before, I think, shows how old I am now, before we had with all the same gear and all that. I was wearing a club jersey at the time and it was yellow, so we're red and yellow. So I was up catching ball and someone said you were flying like a bird. And then someone said, not a bird, a big bird. And ever since then I'm known as a big bird as a bird. So that's the explanation I'm giving anyway. So.
Do you appreciate that nickname?
Yeah, I don't mind it now. It's like anything, it sticks. So if you go around the town or in the club or our Mayo they don't call me. It's weird to hear anyone call me Barry, and everything is the bird. So.
And your teammate James Durkin, in a recent Q&A that I read with the Mayo News, he labelled you the big bad bird. So why bad?
Yeah. I've been known to play a few pranks, whether it be with the club guys or the Mayo guys, When we're on the pitch, we take it serious, but I'm kind of, when I'm off the pitch, I like to have a bit of fun. So no one is safe.
Give us a few examples.
Well, the Mayo lads know that if my phone ever goes missing, I think there'll be a couple of them immigrating. So I have a couple of pictures of everyone that I always like to hold in reserve to make sure that they can't strike out at me, knowing that the retaliation will be worse. So I like to keep that in my back pocket.
Is there quite an entertaining WhatsApp group then?
Yeah, absolutely. But, all the phones are on. They all have passwords and everything, so we're all safe.
Everyone's safe. Excellent. And
Yeah.
maybe James is looking to deflect from the startling revelation in that same interview where he announced that he was allergic to eggs for the first 22 years of his life before growing out of that allergy. How has the dressing room reacted to this sensational news?
Yeah, sensational news. I didn't believe it at the time until he was so bad that if you cracked an egg in front of him, he would literally have a fit. He carried the needle around with him. It was that severe. And then one day he came in and he announced to the team that he was no longer allergic to eggs. So I kind of thought to myself, right, there must be a sophisticated test to this. And he said that he went to Galway Hospital and they basically open an egg in front of him and then leave him for a couple of hours, and then he used to taste the egg, and then they leave him for a couple of hours, and he had no symptoms, and that's how we found out he wasn't allergic to eggs anymore.
Wow. Has he been
modern medicine at its best?
And has he been scrambling eggs for you? And
absolutely, he's actually put on a couple of kgs as well. So it's kind of funny. James and Paddy Durkin plays with Mitchells and Mayo as well. They're twins.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like it because Paddy was allowed to have the eggs and James wasn't. So James was half the size of him, but he's slowly getting a few kgs on him now.
He's catching up.
He's catching up, yeah.
Great. Is there anything similarly bizarre about yourself that no one, or that not many people know that you'd like to reveal today?
I have a couple of stupid superstitions when it comes to the club, so I always wear my socks up. Everyone, even since I was a young fella, with the hoop socks, so that's one stupid thing.
Right.
And I'm afraid of heights as well. So
wow.
So I'm not very good with heights.
So
just don't ask me to go to the top of the Empire State or anything like that.
Okay, you don't mind leaping into the air to at what, 6'5"?
6'5", yeah.
Yeah. You don't mind leaping into the air to catch a ball now, but skyscrapers are out of the question.
I'd say I don't have that bigger jump, so I'm safe enough.
and just on your height, I mean, you are 6'5", is it?
Yeah, 6'5", yeah.
So you've probably put your hand to a few different sports as a youngster. You're probably kind of ahead of, in terms of size, ahead of your peers at the time. I mean, did you excel in other sports, or was it Gaelic football from the off?
I played a lot of basketball as well when I was younger.
Okay.
Won a couple of All-Irelands with St. Charles and the club as well, Castlebar. So I think we won 2 or 3 All-Irelands as well, so played a bit of basketball. But the funny thing is, up until I was 13 or 14, I was actually the smallest on the team.
Wow.
So we won an under-14 Fela, and I'm on the back row and I'm the smallest. And then literally over one summer, I grew about a foot.
Oh, wow.
And my mother, another fact, is about 5'4". My father's about 6 foot, but the postman's about 6'6". So you can take from that what you need to take.
Brilliant. Did you continue with the basketball for a while, or
yeah, we played up until I was about 18 or 19 and really enjoyed it. There was a thriving kind of basketball club in the town, which is great. I think Aidan played a couple, but he still plays a bit at Sligo as well. But for some reason, it kind of just it fizzled out in Castlebar, which is a shame, and kind of stopped playing it then. But it's a great sport, and it's very good for your hands and your feet, especially.
Yeah.
It's well publicised. The couple of guys that played basketball when they were younger still play with the inter-county team, like Kieran Donnelly and Aidan and a few of those. And, I think it's a great sport that you can kind of bring into the GAA aspect as well.
Excellent. And you mentioned your parents there now. Have they forgiven you for the win against Mohill?
Yeah, just about now. They didn't speak to me for a day or two, but it was a good occasion. My mother and father are from Mohill, the club there, and we played them a couple of weeks ago. It was in Castlebar, and Dad was actually the president of the Mohill club.
He still is.
He still is, yeah, and he's the secretary of Castlebar Mitchells as well. So it was a big day for the family. The relations and friends and everything were over, and we all met up afterwards, and yeah, it was good. And thankfully for Mitchells, we got the result as well.
Excellent. So in a way, your dad couldn't really lose on the day.
Yeah, he couldn't really lose. Well, that's what I say, anyways. So.
Right. And you just on yourself again, you're one of 6 inter-county players to be awarded a scholarship, aren't you, for the DCU Business School?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So basically the NBA, it was kind of something that I always kind of looked at doing over the last few years. And then every so often we have the GPA reps that come around and kind of give a general update of what's going on to the team, the county team. So he did in for Mayo, and he said about applications for an MBA. I always wanted to do one, and I just applied, and then you have a couple of interviews, which DCU and that, and I was lucky enough to be awarded the scholarship. So I started there about 10 weeks ago, and I'm up every Thursday for lectures, and so far so good. But I suppose the exams and assignments haven't been done yet, so
you're
working on those.
Between that and obviously the training with Castlebar Mitchells, you're a busy man.
Yeah, busy enough. I recently got married as well, and I think it's great. My wife says it's great for our relationship. She never sees me, so.
Right. You're an accountant by trade, are you?
Yeah, accountant by trade. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see this scholarship taking you?
I just think it's something. So like, I'm working in Aragon as a finance manager and accountancy. I have my qualifications in accounting, and I'm fairly up to date with accounting. So with the MBA, I think it's just something that gives you a broader range of different aspects that help you to expand your knowledge on areas that you mightn't traditionally be good at. So it covers everything from HR to people management to marketing. To economics, all stuff that I wouldn't particularly be that strong on, and I just think it's a great course that might lead to future opportunities for myself.
Excellent. Well, we'll see how strong you are on accounting now in the 61-second quiz.
I don't have my calculator in front of me, so you can't ask. I'm just going to pass that question.
Fair enough. What I will ask you though is just in terms of this year at inter-county level, how frustrating has it been? I know you had an Achilles injury that probably really kind of scuppered your hopes and dreams this year.
Yeah. No, I tendonitis in my Achilles, and I was out for basically 9 months. And I didn't get back into Mayo until about late June, early July. But look, I was lucky enough to be involved in training away and making the match day 26. But look, I probably wasn't in as good a shape as I could have been with the injury to try to get back onto the field. But look, we're basically disappointed, obviously, not winning it. But we'll go again. I think that's the great thing about this group, is that we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves. We're just going to push on, see if we can improve. And on the day of Dublin, we're the better team, as they have been over the last few years. And we just got to strive to get better and hopefully one day finish the job.
I'm sure at the full-time whistle in Croke Park, next year's All-Ireland final seemed like an eternity away now. But at this stage, are the minds kind of fresh again, and is the focus again on kind of pushing all the way for All-Ireland glory?
Yeah, absolutely. The couple of days after All-Ireland are the hardest for everyone involved. You really just kind of want to jump in a hole and forget about it or that. But look, life moves on, and nobody died, thankfully, over it, and you just kind of move on from it there. We're well over at this stage. Actually, we're not even thinking about it. We're looking forward to 2018. So Stephen has called in the lads there over the weekend to touch base and start going again, and you won't find it until you're back into 2018. So from a Mayo point of view, everything is good. The mood in the camp is brilliant. Lads are just looking forward to get going again. And it's kind of funny when you spend the last couple of years pursuing something and training so hard and meeting the lads, is that when you get a break, you don't know what to do with yourself. So I think there's a few of them walking around the streets of Castlebar not knowing what to do. So in a couple of weeks, they'll be back at it again. They'll be fine.
Excellent. And what are your thoughts, just on something that obviously it's quite topical, what are your thoughts on the international rules?
I think it's a great opportunity. Mayo were lucky enough that they had 3 guys involved. And Aidan obviously is the captain. I think it's a great experience, first of all, and it's a great honour to represent your country. And I know that the whole Mayo squad, fans and all were wishing the 3 boys well, and it was just unfortunate they didn't win. But I think it's a great series. I think it's not too often you can represent your country, and for the lads lucky enough to do that, I'd say fair play to them.
Is it a case that the critics tend to be, kind of coming from outside the game? The players themselves are hugely in favour of it?
Yeah, I would think so. Like any of the players that I've talked to that have been at the trials or that, I know that they've worked really hard to try to make the team. And I know there's a couple of Mayo lads that didn't make it over the couple of years, and they were disappointed. And I just think that, there probably are some disadvantages to it. Like everything, there's pros and cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. And for that reason, I think it's just a great way. And even the small thing there, the last game we got up in the morning to watch it in person, the huge Irish crowd that they had there. There's people that had to immigrate. There's a lot of my friends that had to immigrate to Australia. I haven't seen them in a couple of years, and I'm sure it's great for them to go and watch their country play Australia and see some of the Mayo boys that they've been watching on TV and meet them and maybe have a pint with them after the game or something like that. And I think that's one element that a lot of people don't appreciate. It's important for the GAA because we have so many Irish people away, whether it be in the States or down under in Australia, that any opportunity that we have to send our teams over there, I think we should grasp it and keep it going. Yeah,
I'm sure you, like most of us, have been touched in some way by immigration and the way, I suppose, that the GAA abroad has now kind of become a real glue for Irish people in that situation. Have you any experiences in that regard?
Yeah, so there's a couple actually. There was a stat that was thrown out after our county final. So this year we did 3 in a row, and actually out of the first team that did it 3 years ago that won it, there was 15 of the squad that had gone. Now some of them had gone on from just retirement. There was a few of them, but a lot of them had to immigrate. So as I said, we have a lot of boys that are all over the place. My own brother as well has just returned home. He was working over in London for 8 or 9 years, and he went over to college in Brighton. He got his degree and he stayed on working there. But I know the very first place that he hit up when he knew no one was the local GA club. Yeah. And from there, the locals there took him in. He met all the Irish people, got a few connections, and he spent 9 years of his life over there. So, I think the GAA, that's the great thing about it. No matter where you go, or if you think you're alone, there's a local club that you can just go into, say hello, and I'm sure you'll be welcome with open arms. And that's the great thing about the GAA and the Irish people around the world.
Excellent. Well, look, I know time is against us now, and I did promise you this 61-second quiz. Basically, we have a leaderboard, and right on top is Eamon McGee on 7 correct answers.
I don't think I'll come near that now. I'll be lucky if I get 1.
Well, I'll tell you what.
We'll try it.
I'm sure you don't need any reminding of his role in 2012 and so on. Yeah. But this is your chance to exact some kind of revenge and strike a blow, an early blow for Mayo ahead of 2018. So I'm going to start the time when I end the first question. So name the last Mayo club to win the All-Ireland Senior Club Championships.
Oh, gee. Ballina, was it?
It was. Aside from Big Bird, name 2 more Sesame Street characters.
Bert and Ernie.
Very good. Name the last Mayo captain to lift Sam Maguire.
Sean Flanagan.
What was the score when Castlebar and Coughlan last met in a Connacht final in 2015?
Pass. I should know that for my own.
2-10-11. Between club and intercounty, how many Connacht titles does Barry Moran have?
8.
Perfect. Who exactly were your parents supporting when Castlebar Mitchells took on Mohill?
Mohill.
Going back to James Durkin's Mayo News quickfire questions, who did he say his ideal date was?
Paddy, his brother.
Meghan Markle. How many more years has Stephen Rochford signed up for with Mayo?
An extension of 2 years, I think it was.
Lovely. Who got the winning score on your championship debut against Dublin in 2006?
Shelley.
Kieran MacDonald.
Kieran MacDonald. Yeah,
and as far as I finished, Coughlan beat who in last year's Club All-Ireland final?
Coughlan beat... I can't think. Was it Slough-Mead?
Sorry?
Slough-Mead?
No, it was St. Bridget's. And we didn't get time to go to the accounting question, which I'm sure you would have gotten. I'll just give it to you anyway. According to Wikipedia, the modern system of accounting was established by mathematician Luca Pacioli in 1494. From which country did he hail?
Belgium.
Italy. I'll tell you what we got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Oh, shame. But listen, listen, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on the show. We really appreciate your time, and we wish you all the best on Sunday in the AIB GA Club Championships, the Connacht Decider. 2 o'clock again for everyone who wants to head down. So all the best, Barry.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Cheers, thank you.
So that's it. Thanks to Barry Moran, Lee Chin, Stephen McGuinness, Mark McCadden from the Irish Daily Star, and Alan Bennett and all the gang at Headstuff Studios. I'm David Coughlan. Thank you for listening to the Buzz Sport Show.